Okay. Good evening. Good evening. We're still expecting some guests, but you know it's a weekday night, so I want to make sure that we start early so that we do not. We are appreciative for the people who are here early. So people who are late have to have a price to pay for being late. Okay. So guys, settle down. Settle down. Settle down. All right, so today we are continuing a series this week of what we call blood clinical biomarkers. It's our blood week on the calendar. So we are focused on clinical biomarkers. Victor, yes, what is a clinical biomarker?
It's a clinical study of your individual levels.
Correct. Well, I mean, from a layman's perspective, you know, the point of these sessions is to get our customers to get, or our clients to get educated and empowered about their health. So you're right, but I'll add to that definition. Okay. Clinical biomarkers are biological measurements of your overall health status. The biological measurements.
Which is the most accurate measurement available?
No, well, yes, the most accurate measurements available today based on the equipment that is being used for the measurement. So the FDA certifies equipment that are used for, like the blood pressure machine has to be certified. If not, the machine's readings are not clinically certified. So like if you buy a blood pressure machine from the online, if it's not a certified equipment, then the predictability of the readings is not correct. So the kinds of machines that you find like in Costco or in those places or like ours, these are FDA approved equipment in terms of the predictability of the measurements or the clinical measurements that it provides. Okay, is that making sense? So a lot of equipment that is approved would then, the readings from those equipment would then be clinically acceptable. Okay, because a lot of people buy a blood pressure machine at home and they think that the measurements on those machines should be comparable with the equipment we have in the clinic. And they are not built to that level. Our equipment, the equipment we have here is very expensive because it has that level. So we're talking about clinical measurement, right? Clinical biomarkers, which are biological measurements. Kim, so why do we need biological measurements?
I don't know.
Okay, so we were talking about clinical biomarkers. You want to pay attention? Okay, so clinical biomarkers, as I was saying, are biological measurements of our health, right? But why do we need measurements of our health? First of all, we need to know where we are so that we can discuss where we're going, right? So that's a very important issue. So you want a baseline. That's why you take your blood pressure. Where is my blood pressure today? Is it normal? Is it low? Or is it high? Because all those indications are indicating the status or the biological status of the human being. Is that making sense? So it's very important that we understand clinical biomarkers and that those measurements suffer also from some kind of error, right? So can somebody tell me what kind of error those measurements suffer from?
It's an average.
Sorry?
It's a range.
Well, it gives you a range. It's a biological range that's defined based on the population. That's one. What else? What kind of error? Hello?
I remember reading correctly, some of the studies have only been done on like people, not Asian.
Yes, so the measures also suffer from specific kind of limitations, okay? Also, guys, settle down, settle down. We're already in process, okay? We can take our registration later. Okay, thank you. Okay, so we're talking about blood biomarkers and clinical biomarkers. It's important we pay attention, because if you don't understand what we're talking about, then there's a lot of confusion. A lot of people think they know it, and I want to make sure we baseline the knowledge so that when we go deep inside, you actually understand why it is important. Okay? Clinical biomarkers, which are biological measurements of your health, are very important because that's all clinicians have to go on in determining the status of your health. So today, yesterday, today, and Saturday, we have been talking about the blood clinical biomarkers. Yesterday we spoke about Boston Health Diagnostics, and today we are going to talk about Vibrant America. Okay? All right? But before we go into the clinical biomarkers, I want to talk first about what are the 4 sources of disease of critical illness. Where does chronic illness come from? Who knows? There are 4 things that cause chronic illness. What are they? Genetics. Number 1 is genetics. And let's just spend some time on genetics. What is it about genetics that causes illness? Okay, so when we look at your genetics, we're going to look at mutations. And all of us have mutations. And those mutations are 2 kinds of mutations. Either they are enhancing certain biological functions, or they are suppressing certain biological functions. For example, people have enhanced metabolism because of the genetics. That means that carbohydrate metabolism, that means that they eat a lot of carbohydrates, but they don't put on weight because their body is really enhanced in the metabolism of carbohydrates. Okay? And some people, whatever they eat shows up as fat immediately. So they're just genetically that way. Okay? What's the number 2 cause of chronic illness? Not you. Victor.
Nutrition?
Oh, good. We say nutritional deficiencies. All right? And they show up in a lot of different ways, right? As macronutrients, we're going to talk about that, and as micronutrients. Kim, what are macronutrients? Hello, Kim?
I don't remember. I know we talked about that a lot.
Okay, we need to, okay, they're proteins, they're carbohydrates, and they're fats. Victor, you remember what are micronutrients? Sorry, I'm asking questions to patients who actually pay money, because that's the value for them. What are micronutrients? It's important, Victor.
Well, they're the vitamins and the minerals.
Correct, correct, correct. They're the vitamins and the minerals. Very good, Victor. I appreciate it. So our paying customers, I'm going to be asking them questions. It's not to expose your knowledge or lack of it. It's because this is really for you. And it is really important. My staff, they're supposed to know it already. Okay? So we've looked at genetics and nutritional deficiencies. What's the 3rd one? Toxicity. Oh, wonderful. Exactly. Toxicity. What kind of toxicity, Kim?
Air.
Okay, so it's really pollutants, right? And the real ones we are concerned about are heavy metals. And heavy metals tend to be radioactive. It's really important, guys, that we know this. Heavy metals tend to be radioactive, and radioactive metals are known to be carcinogenic. They cause cancer. So if they reach a certain level inside your body, including certain metals like mercury, right? Our body requires certain metals, but some are not good for us in certain levels, okay? So especially the heavy metals, big concern around the heavy metals because some of them are radioactive, and at certain levels inside the body, they would stimulate cancer acceleration. What's number 4? Infections, actually, which are tied to inflammation. So it's really infections. And the infections we talk about here, don't forget that infections by themselves can be cured with antibiotics, but the infections we are talking about here are the residual infections that are not killed by antibiotics, the ones that disperse and go hide in your organs. And over time, they reduce the effectiveness of those organs, which is really what leads a lot to chronic illness. Like they can reside in your lungs and therefore begin to affect lung function. If lung function is affected, it then has cascading effects into a lot of other things like COPD and other things where you need oxygen supply, right? All right, so these are really the 4 big things. So when we look at clinical biomarkers, so you're going to see why I'm talking about these things. Clinical biomarkers are actually looking for ways to measure these things. Okay? So let's talk about it. So most of the discussion we're going to have with your blood for Boston Heart and Vibrant America is measuring nutritional deficiencies. Right? It's going to measure your macro and your micronutrients. When we test your urine in doctor's data, it's looking at toxicity. When we test your pool in Genova, it's looking at infections, it's looking at pathogens and all the things that is going on in your stomach and the bacterial balances, right? And then we do your genetics. So a lot of our testing is really looking for what's really going on. Is that making sense? So that's why we do a complete set of tests across the 6 things that we test. So it gives us a very, very clear picture of what's actually going on, right? I'll just list the different tests we do here. We do pathway genomics. Again, that test looks at your genetic mutations and tells us what's going. 2 and 3, we look at Boston Heart. I'll show you the boxes on that later. And Vibrant America. That's really looking at your nutritional deficiencies. Number 4, we look at the urine test for toxicity. And we also do a second urine test for hormones, because those are also critical catalysts in the metabolic process. Then number 5, we do a stool test with Genova. That's actually looking at infections and toxicity also, because those are excretions out of the body, right? Your urine and your poo are excretions, and the amounts excreted after processing are very strong indications of the levels that are in your body. Is this making sense? Are we clear about this, guys? Okay, Kim and Victor, mostly important. It is very important that you understand this. So when somebody says, why are you doing the test? Go ahead.
Question. I haven't heard you mention the eyes. Is that included with
well, the health of your eyes is directed by all of these things, except they're genetic. And we would know if there was a genetic issue and you had to wear glasses from when you were 2 years old. Okay? But most other eye ailments comes from these things.
Okay, so
like glaucoma, all those illness, degeneration, it all comes from deficiencies that are in these 4 things. Is that making sense? That's a very good question. So that's why we don't worry about imaging and a lot of those things, because they're actually showing a disease state. They're not going to the root underlying causes of illness. Is that making sense? It's a very important question you asked. Right? Okay, so that's why we really focus our tests in this area. For example, if you came here with Alzheimer's, we can go and do scanning and all of that. It's just telling us that, yeah, okay, you have amyloid plaque. But it doesn't tell us what's causing amyloid plaques. But if we run your blood, we're going to know that you have big nutritional deficiencies. And when we look at your pool, we're going to see that there are big issues with, as I know for Alzheimer's patients, with their bacterial diversity, which we know the gut is connected to the brain. And it is where most of the brain illnesses come from the gut. Is that making sense? Okay? Good. Any?
I thought the brain was in charge of everything. So it's the gut.
It is the gut. It is not the brain. The gut drives the brain, actually. Okay? So, I'll just, so that we go over, this is what we went over yesterday. Here, Kim.
I have a copy of that.
You sure?
Yeah.
No, this is just a summary copy. Here, pass it to Victor. Of what we went over yesterday.
Yeah.
So I just want to make sure you have that. All right. So today we're going to talk about Vibrant America. So could you pass this around? So we have some sample reports here for that discussion. I see that Kim brought her own report. Okay, that's very good. All right. So yesterday we spoke about the 4 things that are in Boston Heart. So we complement Boston Heart and the micronutrient report from Vibrant. Pay attention, guys. I'll take you through the report. So just listen for now. We complement the Boston Heart report and this micronutrient report because Boston Heart is giving us the state of metabolism. I hope you're hearing that. It gives us the state of lipids, inflammation, metabolism. It is telling us what is actually happening in your body. Vibrant America is telling us the amount of nutrients that are in your body. So it's a very different picture. So we are taking blood, but we are looking at 2 different things. Is that making sense, guys? It's very important that you understand the difference. And it's 2 perspectives. So Boston is telling us how your body is running. Vibrant tells us what is actually in your body. And so in the Vibrant report, we are looking at micronutrients, which are minerals and vitamins, in 2 places: extracellular and intracellular. So what is extracellular? Kim? So extracellular is what's outside the cells. So when we take your blood, there are 3 components in the blood. There is white blood cells, and white blood cells have just one function: to fight disease. There's our immune architecture, and so the count of that is very important. It has to be at a certain level, and it tells you in this report, so we know how strong your immunity is. The second thing that's in the blood is your serum, right? And that's what we consider as extracellular. Is this making sense? It is what is outside the cell. Serum is just liquid. And then we have the red blood cells, which are the actual cells that we crush to see what is inside. Is that making sense? So the red blood cells represent the cellular content for all the cells in your body. Are we getting this? It's very important. This is a very important report. I need for you guys to understand. It costs you a lot of money. You really need to understand. This is a very important report because it goes to the heart of this issue. Because when you eat and we look at the metabolism and your metabolism is okay, the food, when it passes the GI tract, the walls, it goes straight into your bloodstream in plasma. Then it starts being absorbed into the cells. The question is, how much of it is absorbed and how much of it is in the bloodstream or in the serum? So that's what this report is going to be looking at. Is that clear? So we start looking at the report. This is a very important report and I need for you guys to really understand it, okay? All right, let's open the report and start looking at it. So you're going to see that on this second page of this report, look at this page. The report looks at 3 different areas. It looks at plasma micronutrients. It looks at white blood cells micronutrient. And it looks at red blood cells micronutrients. Right? I just mentioned those 3. Do we now know the difference? So which one again is intracellular and which one is extracellular? Question for Victor.
The extra is on the outside.
Yeah, which one is it? You're looking at them. Among those 3, which one is outside? It is the plasma. That's the number 1. And both the number 2 and number 3 are inside. Are we getting this clear, guys? It's very, very important you understand this. Okay? So plasma is the one that's carrying the nutrients to wherever it needs to go. Guys, I hope you're remembering this stuff. Very important, okay? This test costs how much? 500 bucks? Okay, 300 bucks. And we're going to run it every 9 months to see how good your machine is running after we've given you all these supplements, right? And you've been sleeping well, eating well, doing all of those things. In the summary report, it tends to tell you everything that's bad. It's a bad-driven report, right? It is not, in the summary, it doesn't need to tell you what is good. It just tells you what is bad, especially in this report I'm looking. So can we stay, Kim, I don't want you to look at your personal report. Can you use a sample report? Yeah. Because we're going to talk about the data and I don't want to use your personal data. Okay? So when we look at this report, when we look at the plasma micronutrient here, we see that vitamin B is low, vitamin B2 is low, vitamin E and glutamine are all low in the plasma. And then it tells you what the RDI should be. What is the RDI, Kim?
The daily requirement.
Yeah, who defines what the daily requirement should be? Okay, good. How does the FDA arrive at describing that, Victor? Victor, do you understand this? Why did the FDA decide to define this?
To establish the standards based upon people involved.
Yeah, based upon research that shows what the lowest amounts required to forestall chronic illness. Correct. It's very important. So when people say they eat well and I laugh, it's because they haven't looked at the RDI. Okay, this is required. They call it recommendation now because, you know, we're all liberal. Nobody wants to say required anymore. So they recommend it. And recommendation means that you have choice. So Helen thinks that because they give her choice, she can say no. You know, there are some things that are recommended, but it's not a choice. This is one of them. Nutrients are recommended, but there's no choice. Because if you don't take them, you'll get sick. That is a full stop. Okay? Then they then suggest the supplementation. Right? So look at vitamin B2. The recommended is 1.7 milligrams a day. they are suggesting that you supplement it at 25 to 50 milligrams a day. Why do you think they're saying that? Yeah, the more you carry in your blood, the more it increases the chances that it will be absorbed into the cells. Is that making sense? Right? Because there's a lot of wastage, right? So because it's inside the plasma, they want to make sure you carry more, right? So if you look at all the values there, when they suggest it, they're going to go for higher amounts. This is very important, guys. You pay attention to this because it is about your lives. And I want you to understand these numbers deeply and completely, okay?
Well, it goes not just our lives, but those close to us.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Friends and family, right? So now let's look at your white blood cell micronutrient. What did I say white blood cells were again? They're like our drones, right? They're flying, checking out the bad boys, right? And they shoot them down and then call for air support, okay? So when your white blood cell architecture is weak, then you're always sick. So you can see the things that are abnormal there. A, D3, which is most people, and then they are asking for 2,000 units, I units a day. Look at vitamin E, right? That's what they're recommending. You see that vitamin E was short in the plasma, and it was short inside the white blood cell. Do you see that? That's a big shortage. Choline, they have a different recommendation for men and women. You know the air is blowing here, so if you want to sit here, it's really cold here. Then you have glutamine and selenium. Actually, I'm just having some glutamine drink right now, the protein drink. And then the red blood cells micronutrient, we look at the EPA as the big issue. Are we getting that? So let's turn to the third page or page 4 of the report. Okay, so this is really a very important part of the report because it tells you how we build our recommendations. So we are looking at extracellular. I want to be reminded again, what is extracellular? Outside. And what do we call it, Kim?
The plasma?
Correct.
Oh,
all right. The serum or plasma, right? And then inside?
The white blood cell and the red blood cell.
The red blood cell.
Okay, all right. Looks like we are in elementary, right, Victor? I just want to make sure when you go home you're not confused, okay? And so, look at what they're telling us. When it is normal outside and normal inside, no action is required. When it is deficient outside and normal inside, they say your long-term nutrient status is optimal, but short-term needs. So when it is outside, we're using the outside supply for short-term, for addressing short-term requirement. What could be an example of a short-term requirement? Kim, what could be an example of a short-term requirement for nutrient? No. You needed to run from danger. The body needs it now. That's a short-term requirement for nutrient. You need to run now, so that if the cell then depletes, it's pulling from somewhere, right? So read very carefully what it's saying. It's very important. The long-term nutrient status is optimal, but short-term needs improvement. So look at the food sources and things that are going to improve your short-term supply, right? If you're going to be climbing stairs or all of that, you need a resource pool to ensure your nutrient status for short-term and long-term is met.
Isn't that the fat we carry?
No, that's for energy, but some of that fat is not easy to convert. So when it is outside normal or excess and deficient inside, it says that your short-term status of micronutrients is optimal, but absorption may be a problem, right? As long as extracellular levels are not outside of normal levels, they recommend you take improve your nutrition, or you look for what we call a bioavailable version of the supplement. For example, glutamine that we give you liposomal glutamine, because glutamine is a very challenging product to absorb, and also it doesn't stay very long in the blood. So the minute you absorb it, it goes straight into the cells. So we look for ways. That's why preferably Dr. Noel will prefer giving you an IV. So it goes straight into the bloodstream as a push, and it's absorbed immediately. Actually, it's the best way to take glutathione, as a push, IV push.
Excuse me, is that the same glutamine that you take?
Glutathione?
Pain and soreness and muscles when you exercise?
Yeah, that's protein. You take that to build. That's the one you're talking.
Glutamine's isolated. You take that.
Yeah, glutamine. That's the powder. I took that. That's a protein. We're talking about glutathione.
Oh.
That is for detox, for detoxification. Okay, that. Oh, that's for pain. Glucosamine. Okay, for pain and joints. Yes, for joint challenges. Okay.
No, glutamine is.
I take the glutamine powder. Yeah, I just took it now. It's in my
But
drink.
it actually works.
It does work, yes, because it helps rebuilding tissue. It's like collagen, right? They're all tissue building. So when you exercise, you take those. Let's look at the last one. When they are both deficient in extracellular and intracellular, it really talks about there's a real potential danger. We begin to suffer from this issue of nutritional deficiency. So for example, if you go for a long period, 10 years, 15 years, with this status, you're going to have chronic illness. That's what it is. And there's no excuse. It's not like, oh, yeah, go to your doctor. First of all, how many doctors run this stuff? We don't know any doctor who runs it. Right, Victor?
I've had 2 knee replacements, and no one ever told me to take extra calcium or anything, or what to do.
Exactly.
Or even tested me.
Okay. Okay. So let's look at the report now. Okay, open that next page. We're on page 5. And it now begins to give you a lot of data. So it has 3 columns: current, previous, and reference. So current would be the baseline. I mean, previous is the baseline where you were before. So if you've taken it only once, it's just going to show 2 columns, right? Current and reference. But if you've taken this, run this report 2 times, it's going to show you your previous, your current, and your reference. And what is the reference again?
It's the baseline.
No.
The reference.
The reference is what?
It still is a range.
No, it's the dietary recommended allowance.
It's the RDA.
Are we clear about that? I need for you guys to remember this stuff. Okay, that's what the reference is. That's what we expect the range to be. That is the supposed range, the optimal range that comes from clinical trials. That's where the levels are optimal. That's where they should be. So when we are reading your chart, if you're between 32 to 78, like we saw for vitamin A there, everything is okay. When we look at the white blood cell, the range is between 5 and 35. And you see the current has dropped. You see that the plasma is the extracellular, guys, right? And the white blood cell is the intracellular. So he's fine in the extracellular for vitamin A, but not fine in the intracellular. Right? And sometimes you want to find out what's going on. It could be a genetic condition. Look at vitamin B2. It's short, so you can go back to that chart on page 4 to understand when you are deficient, intracellular, and normal intracellular, what the issues are. Am I making sense now? So when you read your report, it begins to make sense to you. Is this making sense, Victor?
I want to go home and read my report.
Okay. But you know, you can always ask us to help you on the phone and read it, because we have it online too. So hold on. So don't just be overwhelmed with your report at home. We are available here. Just call, we'll open it, and we'll read it with you.
I read it, I think I understand it. Now, there's a different way of looking at it.
Okay. That's why we run these workshops, so that I can really teach you how to read it, so that you don't depend on us. You can look at it and you can talk to your friends.
You know, I'm understanding more, I'm understanding the ranges.
Yes. Okay. Yes.
Okay, because the range, the reference of my report is different from the reference.
Yes, yes. This is a sample report.
No,
Yeah.
I don't mean it that way. The reference, this reference.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
So that's just.
Yeah, this one is a sample report. Yeah, don't compare it with your own report. Yeah, don't compare with your own report. Okay, so this is a sample report.
But it is different.
But I thought the
from what
reference
I
should be
have.
still a reference.
Well, yeah, well, so let me see. No, let me see your report.
Because my reference is completely different reference to your sample.
Okay.
Because the current and the previous is
Hold
okay.
on.
But the reference should be the same.
So where does it say vitamin A?
The idea also depend on age and then.
Correct. Yes. Thank you. So it depends on age and then gender.
That's why I was asking.
Yes.
So that's why it's different.
Yeah. Okay.
So
All right, because this person that we are looking at is very young, 1980. Yeah, and we don't know whether it's a girl or a boy. Yeah, so it's also, yes, exactly. So it's age and gender. So if you're in menopause or you're not in menopause, the micronutrients, the references are different. Thank you, Vincent, for picking that up. Okay. All right. Good idea. And that's why also gender and sex and the nutrient values that we specify are also very different when you look at the RDA. Or blood pressure, anything we're looking at, age and gender is very different. So your blood pressure that is high at 40 may not be at 20, right? Because the curves go up and become more serious as the older you get.
I did a live blood analysis up on the TV screen, and we got a drop of blood. And the drop of blood, there was a white blood cell in there, and there was the red blood cell, and then there was something jumping around inside.
Yeah, the mitochondria.
I don't know.
Yeah, or the cytoplasm.
But it was really strange to see the plasma kind of.
So was this a simulation or was it a live cell?
No, it was alive.
Under the microscope, and it was jumping? Yeah, because the cells are alive.
Well,
And your mitochondria that makes energy is very mobile.
well, here's the thing, though. My numbers were good for whenever they were testing blood. The doctor told me that in looking at it, I had to change my diet because I had too much fat on my diet. And I found it really kind of strange that my numbers were good, but I needed to modify my diet and do a few things.
When was this?
I did this about 5 years ago.
Before you found us.
Yeah.
That's a good thing that you found us, Victor. You've been on this track for a long time.
That's
Very
why I'm
good.
here.
I was kind of worried whether you were in Arizona somewhere in a military desert testing some serious stuff.
Who you been talking to?
the CO2.
I know, right? So Kim, he's a Vietnam veteran, right?
Yes.
Anyway, let's look at vitamin C. You see that for vitamin C, the person has improved since their last previous test, right? That's the good thing when you test over time. We can actually see those improvements with the nutrients that we're giving you and making sure the absorption levels are happening. Look at vitamin D3. Very, very important D, right? see where it is, it means this patient is not taking their supplements. Right? We give them the supplements and they don't take the supplements. Then look at vitamin E and vitamin K2. So we can go on, and then at some point you start seeing what is in the red blood cells, right? Are you getting a feel for this? Do you get it now?
Well,
I'm not going to spend all evening talking about this because I wanted to then look at some of these minerals and just talk about how important they are. So I just want to get a feel that you understand this report. It's a very complex report. And you now understand what's intracellular, extracellular. Very important. So what Vibrant does, when they take your blood, pay attention guys, pay attention. When they take your blood, they then separate it. The plasma is normally at the top, and the red blood cells are under, and I think the white blood cells in between. So they take that part, and then the rest, they crush the cells to see the micronutrients that are inside the cells. That's what they do. It's because we have the technology today. The Vibrant is such a new technology that most doctors have no idea what it is. It's really very new technology. So what you're getting from us is some of the latest stuff, right? So that we want to keep you healthy for a long, long time. So let us quickly look at a couple of these very important nutrients. Let's look at B2. You know there are many B's, right? But let's just look at B2. Two very important coenzymes involved in energy metabolism are derived from riboflavin to participate in oxidation and reduction reactions. This is a really critical reaction. Riboflavin is also essential for NOS enzyme, nitric oxide synthase, and glutathione reductase, which regenerates glutathione and which is very important for antioxidation and detoxification. See that? At the core of the heart of illnesses, oxidation and detoxification. That's at the core of chronic illness. We're going to the heart of the matter. And vitamin B2 standing there as a guard of honor, right? Very, very important coenzyme, right? It gets depleted through excessive or chronic alcohol consumption, right? Not really. It just gets actually also by stress, exercise, and a lot of just hard living, working hard, right? And then they tell you the clinical manifestations, right? Let's take another one, E. Vitamin E is an important antioxidant that reduces the formation of ROS. ROS, the very bad boy, reactive oxygen species, right? That results from fat oxidation. Vitamin E also regulates cell signaling, influences immune function, and inhibits coagulation. You see how these things are important? Let's go to vitamin A. Vitamin A is a group of fat-soluble vitamins. Fat-soluble. Those are the dangerous ones. There are very few of them. You know why they are dangerous? These are the ones that you cannot take too much. The water-soluble ones, you can overdose on them. They will be flushed out. The fat-soluble ones are the supplements you have to be really careful and dose yourself appropriately. Okay? So when people talk about dosing and supplements, the problem is really with the fat-soluble ones. Okay? Which includes retinol, retinoic acid, and several provitamin A carotenoids, among which beta-carotene is the most important. It has multiple functions, including growth and development in infants, children, and adolescents, maintenance of the immune system, and healthy vision. You were talking about eyes, right? There we go. Vitamin E, A, healthy vision. Vitamin A is needed by the retina of the eye for both low light and color vision. Vitamin A also functions as retinoic acid, an important hormone-like growth factor for epithelial and other cells. Okay? So let's go to the last one, or the couple of last ones. Let's look at the bad boy D. This is the one that 95% of Americans are shut off. Here, the first sentence there is kind of scary. Vitamin D regulates the function of hundreds of genes. So imagine if you're short of it. It supports the immune system. It supports production and function of endocrine hormones. Endocrine hormones. Sorry, I'm pronouncing something like a British subject. Then I remember I'm in America. Then I have to change my pronunciations. In England, it's called endocrine. But in America, it's called endocrine. Right? Isn't that right? They call it endocrine here. Is that right, doctor? They call it endocrine? Okay, good. All right. At least you measure up to the English sometimes. It's important for normal growth and development of bones and teeth. Tightly regulates the level of calcium. Hey, as we're aging, that's a big issue, right? The absorption and reabsorption of calcium, right, from the bloodstream and deposit it in the bones. D is like sent by God from sunlight. And because that's the only place where you get that stuff from. We don't make it in the body.
Excuse me.
Somebody's at the door, I think. I can hear a knock. My ears are very smart. It might be wrong.
I have a question. Does caffeine prevent the absorption of vitamin D or calcium?
I don't know. Dr. Noel? I don't know.
I don't know about coffee.
The absorption of calcium. Is the outside door open?
Yeah.
Okay. So I think other things would, because it's other things would pair with vitamin D and excrete it. So let's look at how does it get depleted. See, they say vitamin D deficiency is very common in the US. It might be because we don't have enough sunlight in the US. Right? You know, these people talking about climate change, perhaps they should get some vitamin D first. The most common reasons for vitamin D deficiency include lack of sun exposure and the regular use of sunscreen. I know these white people have been deceiving you guys with sunscreen, right? Individuals with darker pigmented skin are at greater risk. Wow, look at me standing here. I should be downing it. I take 10,000 every week. 10,000 I use, right? That's the weekly dose for D I'm taking, 10,000. Which one are you taking, Victor? Don't tell me you don't know, Victor.
Could be, I can't remember.
I think we gave him the D 10,000.
D3, maybe that's a high
Yes, I think we gave you a 10,000. And I think that's the same that you have.
I don't take it.
Oh, it's inside, integrated into your, okay. So she was on a higher dose, now she's on a normal D dose. Yeah. But typically when you start, we want to put you on an accelerated dose and then taper the dose down. Okay. Yeah, some people, I mean, yesterday at the workshop, people were talking about 50,000 units. Kind of scary, right? Because of serious deficiencies. Okay. Chronic liver disease and kidney failure are risk factors for D deficiency, right? Look at those big organs, liver and kidney failure. big problems in America. Some medications can deplete vitamin D. Anti-inflammatory medications, antibiotics, anticonvulsant medications, cholesterol-lowering medications, laxatives, and anti-ulcer medications. There's your answer.
Yeah, I saw that.
Okay, you get that? All right. So let's turn to metabolites. Choline is a metabolite. Sometimes I think I take this like once a month, choline. I have the choline capsules. Choline is metabolized within cellular mitochondria. So let me just talk a bit about mitochondria, because I take a lot of mitochondria. We have mitoQ. So listen to this, guys. The mitochondrial depletion in its use of oxygen is at the core of cancer. Once cells lose 30% of mitochondrial capability, they become cancerous. We know that. And so you want to make sure you feed your mitochondria with oxygen, so it's fully oxygenated. And a lot of people are looking for, that's why they use hyperbaric chambers, oxygen, ozone therapy. You know, all these emerging things about oxygenation goes to the heart of this issue of trying to provide enough oxygen to the mitochondrial architecture so that it's not depleted of oxygenation. Okay, that is using the Warburg theory, the metabolic theory of cancer. Okay, it's one of the theories of cancer. There are about 2-3 theories of cancer. Okay?
That's something that maybe plants could help.
Help like what?
Filtering the air, maybe.
No, I'm confused. I'm confused.
Well, there's certain plants that help filter the air.
All plants filter the air because they take in carbon dioxide and produce oxygen
Some more than
in
others.
photosynthesis. Yeah, some more than others. The sea does the same thing too. It captures carbon dioxide and releases. That's why if you walk by the sea, you feel lightheaded because of the excess oxygen.
So that
Or you walk in the forest. That's why people feel good. It's not because of the forest. It's because of the extra oxygen. You understand that? So that feeling in the forest and by the sea is the presence of that extra oxygen. All right? Okay? So then there is glutamine, the one we were just talking about. So it's an amino acid. What are amino acids? Class. So why did you say an amino acid is a protein? What's the connection between amino acids and proteins?
There's a number of amino acids that make up protein.
Very good. Very good.
23 or 40.
Exactly. Very good. Right? So yes, so amino acids are the building blocks of proteins. That's what we call them at the atomic level, the building blocks of proteins. Right? So glutamine is conditionally essential amino acid, right? In the intestinal lining, glutamine is the preferred source of fuel for intestinal epithelial cells and the main energy source of leukocytes, immune cells, right? White blood cells. Other important functions of glutamine include transporting nitrogen between cells, acting as a precursor to glutathione production, and acting as a precursor to nucleotides, participating in glyconeogenesis in the absence of adequate carbohydrate intake, blunting the rise of blood glucose after consuming carbohydrate-rich meals, and regulating intestinal tight junctions. Wow, I didn't know this. I just had glutamine right now in my drink. This tight junction thing is something I've run a workshop on because so the support for tight junction reduces leaky gut syndrome, which is what affects your brain also. Okay? Let's look at selenium. Then we'll close when we look at the omegas. Selenium is a metal. It's one of those trace elements. How many people here did their periodic table in school? You know what the periodic table is, Victor?
I can't recall it at the moment, but it sounds very familiar.
Yes, it's a table that lists out all the elements in nature and gives them their numbers and their mass and their positions. So selenium is one of those trace elements required for immune function. Well, you know, the Chinese make a lot of these things because we use it in our cell phones. So they were like, okay, if you don't want to increase the tariffs, we will not give you trace metals, right? Interesting. Sorry, sideshow. But selenium is a very important because it's one of those trace metals that is used in cell phones and other things, and the body also needs it for immune function and for the synthesis of thyroid hormones. Imagine how many Americans suffer from hypo or hypothyroidism, right? Through its actions in selenoproteins such as iodothyronine dehydrogenase and the direct conversion of thyroxine T4 to tridothyronine T3. Additionally, this mineral assists enzymes in protecting cell membranes from damage, and selenium is a critical component of antioxidant reactions by supporting the production of selenoproteins such as glutathione peroxidase. Selenium helps to regenerate vitamin C and vitamin E from their oxidized forms, supporting antioxidant actions of these vitamins. Okay? So it tells you how it's get depleted. So we're going to end with the last one, which is one of the omegas, EPA. How many omegas do we normally look at? We normally look at ALA, EPA. Come on, educate me, guys. EPA, LAA, DHEA, right? DHA. Yes, sorry, DHA. Thank you, Dr. Noel. Right? So one of the ones here is the EPA. I can't even pronounce that. Echinocapenoic acid is an omega-3 fatty acid that participates in the health of cellular membranes, mediates lipid actions, and reduces inflammatory responses in the body. EPA and DHA influence the types of inflammatory response mediators made in favor of anti-inflammatory echinosoids such as leukotrienes, prostaglandins, thromboxanes. They are also noted for moderate to strong antidepressant effects. Specific to EPA, it has been shown to suppress signaling of TNF-alpha in adipocytes. Those are fat cells. EPA also increasing cerebral oxygenation, right? You know our brain is all fat. That's why good fat is very good for you. EPA appears to have some beneficial influence on regulating levels of leptin and increasing adiponectin. EPA may enhance adaptive immunity by stimulating B-cell responsiveness. Okay, it gets depleted by the way we deplete a lot of things. So, that is the conclusion of this report. So, your report will be much longer because it would cover everything, right? We give you like a 50-page report. But this is just the sample that I chose to discuss today to give you context. Are there any questions? Okay, so I want to finish. Victor, have you been in any of our presentations for stem cells?
Last Saturday I was here.
Yeah, last Saturday you were here. Okay, I just want to finish.
Patches,
Yeah, I just want to finish by introducing our stem cell patches and where they play in this overall architecture of supporting your nutrient deficiency by stimulating our aging body to work harder and smarter. Actually work smarter, not harder. It's already working hard and stupid. So we want it to work smarter, right? So that's what we really want to do about it, okay? So we have different kinds of stem cells. So we just got one that they call Nirvana This one would make you sound like me, would put you in a very good mood, right? And then we got one that is for performance, if you want to perform very well in sports. Then we have one for sleep. Anybody here have sleep problems? I thought you were sleeping well already.
I have ordered a patch. I haven't put them on.
Oh. So you can't sleep without your patch. Then there's energy patch. I use that for tennis. Do you do any sport, Victor?
No.
Then there is a pain patch. And then there is a glutathione patch. Actually, this one actually goes to support your oxidative processes. Most of our customers who are using the patches are reporting really very good results, including me. I'm wearing about 3 or 4 patches right now.
I've got a question. Do you have any to help suppress diet?
What is that? I thought they have one.
The S39 helps with that.
Yes. Yeah. Did we do your genetics? Can you check quickly whether we ran his pathway genomics? Because if you have appetite issues, I thought you had some supplements for that.
Yes.
For crave suppression. Yeah, if you need that, we have a supplement for that.
Yes.
That it's called weight loss. It's called crave suppression. So it suppresses your desire to want to eat. It like you always feel full, right? Okay. Any questions? Any comments? He didn't do pathway genomics. Okay, we need to run your genetics. Because if it's a genetic condition, then you need to do manually correct it.
Well, it's not genetic. I can tell you what it is, but not now.
You just have a big appetite.
It's called the munchies.
What is that?
The munchies.
Oh, that's this is the one you bought.
Yeah.
Yeah, you should start using it.
Well, can you put it on now?
Yes. Can you help him put it on, Vincent?
Yeah.
And show him exactly where to put it.
Just
Wait till after.
No, it's fine. You don't have to take off your shirt. Don't worry. Anyway, we didn't get introduced to you, madam. What's your name?
I'm Grace Winsor.
Grace? You sound like you're from Nigeria.
Yes.
Or Ghana.
I'm from Nigeria.
Oh, where in Nigeria, madam?
Cross River State.
Oh, Cross River State. That's next to my country, Cameroon. Yeah, there's a river between Cameroon and Cross River State. And the people in Cross River State have been taking our oil.
International war will get with you.
I know, right? you know these colonial issues we have to deal with so many years after independence, right? So funny. Well, thank you, Grace. So you're Dr. Noel's guest?
Yes.
Yeah, you live in Long Beach too?
No, Cyprus.
Oh, well, so Grace, this is your first time here. Give us some feedback.
I'm just listening.
Yes.
I just did and then.
What do you think?
It's good.
Are you a nurse?
I'm not. I'm a teacher.
Oh, you're a teacher. So am I a good teacher?
You are very good.
Thank you. My ego needs massaging.
No, that's good.
Well, thank you for coming and participating. We hope to see you more often, okay? So we run this on Wednesdays and Thursdays and on Saturdays at 10 to 12 in the morning. So on Saturday, I'm going to be going over what we did yesterday and today in a lot more higher level. And then we'll go into some of the recommendations that we made for the shortages for nutrient deficiency. So I'm going to take it a step. We've discussed the blood for Boston. We've discussed the micronutrient. On Saturday, I'm going to take it, when we get these results, what then do we do with it? And how do we do that? Okay? So we can then show you the model for trying to address this particular issue. We have strategies for addressing that. We have strategies for affecting that. But typically, when you have genetic mutations that are suppressing, we tend to address it with nutrients, because the biochemical architecture in the body depends on the building blocks: proteins, fats, and carbohydrates. So if you provide the right nutrient, it then compensates for that underlying mutation. So that's how we address that. You understand that? Is that making sense? So for people like me who have a mutation in my metabolism, my folate metabolism, I have to take a special kind of B12 to address that deficiency. Okay? And if I don't, then I suffer from that deficiency and the effects of that deficiency. So that's why doing your genetic thing is very, very important. Yes, in looking at the soul, as you may say. Yeah. Okay, guys, we have some slight refreshments, and I want to thank you for joining us. Grace, you have a question? Yes.
When you take supplements, do you take it throughout your life, or at a certain point in time you stop?
Very amazing question. Kim has asked that question so many times. Except you stop living. And when you die, you will stop taking nutrients. Yes.
Unless you eat a certain amount of food can give you that.
You see, the people in the village, I come from the village, they had good sunshine, good fruits. They take vegetable from the soil and they eat that day. They cut the fish, they eat that day, or they dry, they smoke it, right, in the village, right? But then you come to the city now, you have microwave, you have fridge, you have all this bullshit. And then you go to the restaurant, you don't even know what you're eating. That's a challenge. And then sugar. That amazing thing called sugar. The day God created sugar, He knew we were all going to fall. We would become sinners of sugar. Right? The minute you mention sugar, everybody is shaking like cocaine addicts.
That was the fruit of the tree in Eden.
I know, yes. But also, back in the old culture, Grace, our parents used a lot of spices. So food was very tasty. Where in Western culture, the food has no taste. Zero taste. So what do? They add three things in Western cooking: sugar, salt, and fats. That's the taste Western people know. We have different kinds of tastes, right? And so that's the real challenge in Western cooking, that those are the three tastes that Americans know. The smell of fat burning, sugar, and salt.
Bacon and eggs.
Right, exactly. And so Americans don't like spicy food, which is at the essence of good health, right? And curcumin or all these other spices is not traditionally part of this cooking here. And those spices contain a lot of these micronutrients. Right? That is why in the old culture people use a lot of spices, and that is where the because you use just a little amount, because that's what the body needs. That's why we call them micronutrients. They're required only in very small amounts. Curcumin, my brain is going in. Garlic, turmeric, all those things in little amounts. And those are micronutrients. So if you cook that way and you eat that way, you wouldn't need the nutrients all your life. But because you came to America, we punished you. Exactly. You brought yourself here, so now you are condemned to supplements all your life. Did that answer your question, Grace? Yes. Okay, yes. There is no escape from it. Especially as you grow older, the body really needs a lot of support. That's why a lot of us get really sick as we grow older. We're more tired, we get more infection, the knees begin to hurt. You see, everything is breaking down because of a lack of micronutrients. That's really critical. And because we have punished ourselves for a long time without good nutrients.
Because we're always sitting down in traffic, in front of TV, on the phones, sitting down too much.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. Well, thank you for coming. There's some food to eat. Grab it. And hopefully I'll see you all again on Saturday as we move this to the next step. And then I'm going to test you on intracellular and extracellular.
Thanks for the warning.
Thank you, guys. Thanks, Kim. Thanks, Grace. Thanks, Victor.